Hi, my name is Tabitha Owanda and you're watching InterSTEM. Today I'm filming from my dorm room. My roommates are out, so it gives me some quiet time to do this intro. And here at InterSTEM, I speak to scientists or just people in science, tech, engineering, and math, and I ask them about what they do and how it adds value to the community around them. These people could be students like myself, it could be professors, and it could also be professionals already working and earning a living, doing various things in STEM. And so today's video is about the Mawazo Institute, and this is a research group that allows African women to pursue high quality research in their postgrad level. And so with that said, I decided to talk to them because I wanted to know what opportunities there were for African women in STEM to advance themselves in their careers after their master's levels. It's always good to have a trajectory that sees far into the future. And so I spoke to people from the founders and to the people who manage the operations, and they had a lot of wonderful things to say about what Mawazo does. And so stick with the videos till the end and you will truly find something insightful to see. So in the Mawazo brochure, you mentioned that the quantity and quality of research produced on the African continent is low, and Mawazo is trying to counter that challenge at PhD level. However, as a scholar, pre-PhD level, I want to know, how can we tackle that problem in earlier stages, in high school, in undergraduate level? How do we address this issue before it becomes too late?
That's a great question. So I think the issues, the underrepresentation issues that we see at the very end of the pipeline at the postgrad, PhD, postdoc, and even beyond level, both in terms of gender representation, but also just the overall picture of low research productivity, low quality quantity in Africa. This has its roots much earlier on in the pipeline with the quality of our education system, with the kind of opportunities that people get along the way. And we definitely acknowledge this at Mawazo, even if the bulk of our work is focused on women specifically and in the PhD and post-PhD process and a little beyond that. We do a few things targeting pre-PhD audiences. So we've collaborated with partners on a career workshop for master's and bachelor level women interested in the sciences. We do some outreach programs targeted at high school girls. We've in the past supported bursaries for high school girls and that kind of thing. Though this is not our primary focus. In terms of what I think can be done to improve the situation pre-PhD, definitely our education system. You know, the whole point of a PhD is to ask hard questions, to think really deeply, to make new connections, to really push the envelope of knowledge, and to be able to do this effectively. These problem-solving skills, this mindset has to be inculcated pretty early on, and often our education system has not done a good job of that. If you remember those 8 for 4 days where it was all about cramming, memorization, and that kind of thing. Also, what I would really love to see is students earlier on being encouraged to read, to write, because these are really crucial transferable skills that you need to be somebody who's a thinker, who is producing knowledge and that kind of thing. So these are just a few of the examples. Another thing that we see with girls especially is they are drop out, lose interest in the sciences really early on, and there are quite a number of mentorship programs and that kind of thing that can get them women who have a kind of nascent interest in science or a kind of nascent talent, have that fostered. And it's not just women, I think men too. In a place like Kenya, a lot of people kind of are really interested in getting rich quick and say business or shiny objects or being an entrepreneur in a kind of abstract sense. And I think that the value in science the public value in science among young people is not as strong. as it perhaps used to be. So these are just a few thoughts, but definitely the plant has to be seeded early on, and a big part of this is very structural in terms of the kind of preparation that African kids get really early on. And this is connected to our education systems, the resources that we dedicate to education across the entire spectrum. It ties back to our curricula.
So Mawazo is doing a lot of amazing things, and I want to know, what is Mawazo's vision for research in the African continent in the next 10 years? This could be in terms of quality, quantity, the diversity and inclusion that we would like to be seeing in research. What is Mawazo's vision for that?
Well, I would say all of these things. I want all of these things to, across all of these indicators, I'd like to see research in Africa. I'd like to see significant improvements. And, you know, together, all of what the picture that this paints together, if we have, you know, really increased production of research, you know, more research, more papers, more academics, more universities, and that kind of thing. If we have higher quality research that is not just quality in the academic sense or within the academic framework in terms of it gets into quality journals and stuff like that, but quality also in terms of the way that it informs our everyday lives, our policies, our thinking, you know, so whatever it is. So it's quality also in terms of its relevance in a very broad sense. In our society, if we see more diversity, young people, older people, women, men, you know, many regions, underrepresented regions from the underrepresented regions in the continent really coming on board. So right now a lot of our research is really centered around places like South Africa, those kind of centers. If we can see more diversity, if we can see more inclusion, the picture we're painting here is of a very vibrant academic sector, a very vibrant knowledge ecosystem, and this is what Mawazo wants to see, and our contribution is a small one. You know, we are a small organization that thinks that, you know, we want to insert women's voices as part of this push towards a larger vibrancy in our sector. There are many people who are doing a lot and at a much larger scale. You know, our universities are investing, are trying to seek diversify their pools of funding from private sector, from external partners and that kind of thing. Our governments are trying to regulate our universities more, be more of a watchdog, ensure there's quality and less of irregularities in that system. Development partners like the World Bank are investing a big way in universities for the first time after quite, you know, a lull. And so I think many people are getting at this from different angles, and that's really, really exciting. One thing I will say, the final thing I will say related to this is it's also important that research in Africa is not really reduced to this idea of we need research to serve development in a very reductionist or oversimplified way. I think just having spaces in our research ecosystem for discovery level science or curiosity driven science, all of this is part of a vibrant knowledge ecosystem. And so I would not want for Africa to have a research ecosystem that is all about practical things. And it's important that there's relevance and that kind of thing, but then really understanding that to be relevant, it doesn't mean that you have to be you have to be kind of research that seems to be really addressing very obviously directly some need in society. I think we should start appreciating how blue sky science, where we're just asking questions, we're looking at the sky, whatever it is, this is also part of a vibrant knowledge ecosystem. And related to this is the idea that right now we're all STEM crazy. I'm a scientist. I obviously very, very excited about science, and it's the opportunities that and the opportunities for Africa in science and technology. But then I don't want our research ecosystem in the future to ignore the social sciences, to ignore the humanities. All of these make a rich knowledge ecosystem, and so I hope that we don't lose sight of that.
So, what is the role of academia in steering African development, and how does the PhD research fellowship program at Mawazo feed into that role?
Globally, researchers are the people behind ideation and innovation. They're the people we have to thank for the leaps we've made with technology and the gains we've made with disease eradication. It's for this reason that awards such as the Nobel Prizes for Sciences exist, to celebrate the people who are pushing these boundaries to solve some of the world's biggest challenges. Global researchers are able to push these boundaries and make the advancements that they make with their work because they have the resources to do that. Unfortunately, this is not the case for African researchers. African researchers hold knowledge, but unfortunately do not have access to resources to be able to allow them to do high quality research. They lack access to funding, they lack access to training and capacity building to enable them to conduct that high quality research that they need to do. And they also lack access to platforms to communicate their researchers with decision makers such as government, policymakers, and the general public. The truth is, Africa's problems are best known and understood by Africans. And therefore, to foster development on the continent, we must equip our researchers with the resources to conduct high quality research. It's for this reason that Mawazo exists. Our mandate is to equip young African women with the capacity to do high quality research, build their careers as researchers and academicians, and also provide them with platforms to communicate the great work that they're doing with members of the public, government, and policymakers. We work with women because they're a marginalized group, and even worse so in the research and academia ecosystem. You'll find, for example, that in Africa, less than 30% of PhD students are women. And the truth is, women make up over half of the population of the continent. And so their voices matter, their ideas matter, and for us to advance as a continent, we must allow them and we must enable them to have a say in the decision-making process of solving our most pressing problems as a continent. And because we've already established that the people behind the ideas are researchers, then for us to advance as a continent, it's imperative for us to build the capacity of young African women researchers to do this high quality research that will push the boundaries in Africa's development. And that's what our programs, our PhD Scholars Program and our Research Fellows programs do. They enable women to become thought leaders in their fields, give them the voice to and the platforms to communicate the great work they're doing, but also help them to advance their research and help them to do high quality research that will allow us to push boundaries and leapfrog as a continent.
Mawazo has a vision in which the voices and ideas of African women are amplified to help shape the future of the African continent, and that's an amazing, profound vision, and I support it. So how can a number of people just like me who buy into that vision support Mawazo and its initiatives to ensure the success of, the agenda that's being pushed by Mawazo?
So to your last question around how we can get people to buy into Mawazo's vision, I think one of the things that we really encourage people to do is find ways to partner with us in the delivery of our programs. We realize that we do not exist alone and that there are many, many people who believe that higher education in the academic space is a place that sort of needs to be revived a little on the continent, and that also see it as a great source for ideas and basically create in the future that we need to see on this continent. And there are also a lot more people who believe in women's empowerment issues and storytelling and using creativity through public engagement. So what we try and encourage people to do is that if you see anything that interests you about our work, reach out to us. We're always looking for new partners. The thing that we encourage people to do is become beneficiaries of our programs, attend our events, read our books, share our podcast, and spread the word of basically what we're doing, right? I think it's very easy to follow us on social media and retweet a post. again, like share a podcast episode that you thought was particularly thrilling. For instance, the last podcast episode on Unbiased Here, which I did with our CEO, Dr. Rose, is one of the most engaging podcasts that I think we've done. You know, she's really interesting and breaks down things like nanoscience in a way that is very accessible. And the other thing that we try and encourage people to do is think through what they can do in sort of their own spaces to encourage this vision of the empowerment of women and the strengthening of the academic space within the continent, and to use us as a resource for that. We are in the process of producing data that tells that story of women's engagement within the academic space. If you're looking for data, come find us. If you're looking to find resources on ABC, I think we are a good source of that. But basically, reach out to us, follow us, retweet us, share our content, and show up for us. It's that simple. And become our beneficiaries as scholars and researchers.
This is a question that I really like to ask because I'm an undergraduate, and it is, if you could go back to your undergraduate days and do something differently or relive a moment that was pivotal to your success as an undergraduate, what would that be?
If I could go back to my undergraduate days and do something differently, I would try to be more collaborative in my classes. I think it's easy to get used to learning alone while you're at university. If you were in the humanities like me, you do research alone, you write your papers alone, you get graded alone most of the time. But now I believe that learning together with others is a really important part of academic life. When I first started working for Mawazo, I was struck by how close the scholars were to each other, even though most of them worked in completely different fields. Having that kind of support and community really seemed to motivate them, and I think that I let myself miss out on that when I was in college, so I definitely changed that.
A pivotal moment in my undergrad, during my undergrad years, I think, was finding myself a suitable mentor or advisor earlier in my college years who was able to help me navigate my studies and advise me to follow a path that led me to Mawazo and its impactful work, and I am so glad to be here. As they say, I think everything comes full circle. So my background is in accounting and supply chain management, and I'm really not working in those fields, but I'm glad to be part of Mawazo and part of this work that is creating an impact here in Kenya.
Thank you so much for watching this video till the end and learning about Mawazo and what they're doing to promote research on the African continent. If you are interested in their work and you'd like to learn more about it, then do visit their website and see about some of the other things that they have that I probably haven't highlighted. And if you were inspired by their work, do reach out to them and tell them that you appreciate their work. It means a lot to get feedback from people who see your work. And then last but not least, if you enjoy this video and you enjoy some of the other content that I push out, then do reach me via the channels that are there and subscribe to this channel. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.